All right. We are live here with Iris Berry from Punk Hostage Press, author, editor, songwriter, actor, singer, and all-around amazing human being. And it's an honor to be here with you today. I'm really excited. I'm Eric Core from Punk Glow Magazine, and thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Eric. No, it's great to be here. Been looking forward to this for a while. So, and we're here. So, yay. Thank you.
Cool, cool. So let's start with Punk Hostage Press because that's your really your primary project at this time.
It
Um,
is.
and I love the concept of it. And you've got some really cool authors,
Thank you.
and also just the arrangement you make with authors is so outside the box, like how people publish and how you do it. Do you want to just talk a little bit about your inspiration for that first?
Yeah. Well, it's basically it's the press is a very it's been very organic. But when Razor and I first started the press, we as writers, we both wanted it to be for the writer. We didn't want to make money off the writers. We wanted to make enough money just to, pay for the price, do the cost of business. But we didn't want, and we also, I, we didn't really plan on it going this way. I mean, we just started to do it because he and I both were doing just our books, mine and his. The Daughters of Bastards was mine, and his was Better Than a Gun and a Knife Fight. And his we had gone to Tia Chucha Press one day in December, maybe the beginning of January 2012, because Luis Rodriguez, who has Tia Chucha Press, was going to publish Razor's book, and I was editing it, and he wanted us all to meet. And when we got there, Luis was like, "I do want to publish this, but I can't do it for 3 years."
Wow.
And which we didn't get at the time. I get that now, but we didn't know if he was just trying to put us off, just, and he of course wasn't. He's a wonderful man. So, but he did say to us, "Why don't you guys publish it yourselves?" Which I couldn't even fathom how that would work, or what it would look like, or if I even wanted to do it. It just never occurred to me. It's like saying to me, "Hey, do you want to like learn how to fly a plane?" Or, just I've never considered it. So a few days later, Razor texted me. He's like, "So do you want to start a press?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And he said, "What should we call it?" And I said, the first thing that came to me was, did you ever have a MySpace?
Oh my God, yes. I think it actually still exists. I just don't know how to access it.
I don't either. I think mine says I'm like 89 years old. I'm not even sure. Like all my information's so wrong. But my URL, which is, I think, you could still find me this way, because we're allowed to make our custom URLs. Mine, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make mine Punk Hostage." Like, I just, because I love all things punk, and it was just a, kind of a cool bent or whatever. And then at that time, which was 1999, I think, or 2000, I was naming everything like, "I'm book hostage, punk hostage, charity hostage." I was just tagging that on everything. And so when he said, "What should we call it?" I was like, "What about Punk Hostage?" And he was like, "Yes." And our goal was just to do mine and his. And here we are on our 50th book. So it's really happened really organically. We never planned for it to take off in such a beautiful way that it has, but we're so grateful.
That's really cool. What were some of the challenges when you got it going? Because I can't imagine this was an easy undertaking.
No. Um, First of all, I'm just going to say this. I love all of our writers. We couldn't do it without them. Um, but what happened is there was this like mad rush when, a lot of, because I guess we were filling a hole that existed in the community, the literary community in Los Angeles. So a lot of people were just sending, we hadn't even had a chance to say whether we're taking submissions or not. We weren't even and we just started getting people wanting to submit, and we were all so overwhelmed, and it was like, "Well, we can't right now. We can't look at this for 3 months because and because only because people had said that to us once upon a time. So we're like, okay, we'll just do what we've been taught or what we know, little we know. And it upset a lot of people. People felt hurt. People felt, like we didn't, but we just didn't have the bandwidth. So there was that. And then there was, there's the little things that happen where you have somebody's going to rehab, somebody's on Skid Row smoking fentanyl or crack, and they're calling you going, who I absolutely love this person, but saying, when can we publish my book?
Yeah.
And luckily they're fine now. This person's fine and they're doing well and thriving. But that's heartbreaking when you because I've put so much energy into working on someone's book and suddenly there's no point
Mm.
because what are you going to do? Have like a PR, like have a, a marketing plan for the afterlife. It's just like
Right.
you can't, and to work with someone who's no longer with us, which we've also done, is also hard to work with someone who's passed on. So, but it's trial and error. We have found these things out. Somebody gets done with their book. We had one person who I shall remain nameless, was like came out, like wrote about it, and the transition and everything. And this was like 13 or 14 and loved it, did such a beautiful job. And just as we were ready to hit the publish button, they're like, you know what, I can't. My parents are going to be very hurt. And of course, we're going to honor that. But so it's just stuff like that. And also just learning, things change with the internet because we're doing it with the internet. Things change so much. And, one day we're working with CreateSpace and the next day Amazon's your new boss. It's like, wait, what?
Mm.
Just stuff like that. But it's all doable. It's all been really thrilling, actually, mostly.
Yeah. No,
Does
it's
that make
funny when you were
sense?
talking, it made me think. My friend Kate always talks about punk years should be measured the same as dog years. And I always, when she said that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. When you describe like people outside punk rock don't understand there's specific challenges to punk rock life that just, whether a person is sober or not, they're just somehow are, it's
What
challenging.
is that? No, I hear you. And what is it? Is it because of the defiance, or is it because it's just automatically outside the box, or because everybody's so different and unique, oddly and lovingly?
And I do think part of it is just that it's if society sets up the expectation is if you go this direction, this is what will happen. And we don't even see that line. We're like, well, what if I go over here? Or what if I go around it? What will happen?
Right.
And so I
Right.
think we ask the questions and we do the things that the unexpected.
Right. I mean, I had an issue with the unexpected. Like, so I don't know if you realize, but in a book, the legal page, it's like you have the title page and then you turn over, and the legal page is always on the left, on the back side of the title
Oh,
page.
I didn't realize that's what they called that.
Well, it's what we call it, but
Okay,
it's where all like the ISBN
right.
and the Library of Congress and the disclaimer. And so I was like, you know what, that's an important page because a lot of the people that work on the book that make it possible, their names end up on here. So I wanted to go on the right side. I just let's do that. And Razor, my partner, was like, yeah, that's great. Let's honor the people that helped. And I had one author who I love, but was freaking out about it. Like he couldn't sleep that the page was on the other side. And I said to him, he goes, but it just looks wrong. And I was like, I I go, I know. And but we're Punk Hostage Press. We reserve the right to not conform.
That's
And
all.
he totally got that. And I ended up changing it for him anyway, because I realized it wasn't that important to me. It was if he couldn't it was giving him so much grief. I was like, it doesn't matter. What's more important is that he doesn't lose any more sleep over this. But it was, it's stuff like that. Because that's the thing. When you have an independent press and you can do what you want and you can break the rules or not have to follow the rules, you find out a lot of really different things than you normally would, where people are just supposed to follow the rules. You find out about who can actually do that, who's comfortable with breaking the rules,
Mhm.
who who is uncomfortable, who is, who can who wants to like lavish in that ability to be free, this whole idea of freedom. And so that's also been really, and for me as well, it's like, we know, like, we're not going to do anything that offends anyone. I mean, we don't want to change somebody's voice or change the truth. We also don't want, there's certain things that don't need to be published, but we don't have to follow the guidelines that are the book burners. We're
Right.
not there, we're not in that camp. But to not be in that camp brings on this you know whole other experience of how people feel about it. So it's interesting. Not everyone, it's not for everybody.
Yeah. When I think that's also like part of punk too is like I know I experience this sometimes. Somebody will explain rules about something to me, and I'll just go, it I can't understand. You know what I
What,
mean? It's almost like suddenly they're speaking another language. It's like well, you have to do this, this, and this. And it's like,
why?
but yeah, and it's or but but why couldn't we do it that, and that? Because it'd
Why
be way
can't we?
more fun.
Yeah, and there's
Uh,
that.
but I think that's also one of the challenges of punk rock. It's like even when something's set out in front of us, it's like, yeah, but there's got to be another way.
And there's several other ways.
Yeah.
And I think, because I don't know if you get this, but I get these questions. I get the question, what is punk rock? And
Hmm.
I'm just like, wow. um it's not just a leather jacket and dog collar or whatever, and it really isn't. But what it is for me is it just freedom, artistically, creatively, and also just in how to navigate in the world, if possible. Freedom.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I always think of it as it's like, how do you describe an anarchistic movement?
I'd like to hear that, actually. How do you?
And
Well,
that therein lies the challenge.
I can name a few incidents you know, that are complete anarchistic, but have nothing to do with punk rock.
Yeah, no, I can too. I can too.
Politically, January 6th was pretty anarchistic.
Yeah.
That's textbook anarchy. I'm not my anarchy, but we
Yeah.
don't need to go there.
But I think the punk celebrates the individual anarchy of just like, how do you exist in a world of rules and define yourself in a way that expresses who you are moment to moment, with or without labels, in a creative space. And when you're given a box, do you use it as a box, or do you use it as a home, or do you create something completely new out of it?
Well, that reminds me of the SpongeBob cartoon where Squidward throws out a TV. Well, no, he gets a new TV and he throws out the TV box. So it's at the end of his driveway or whatever it is in Bikini Bottom. And so SpongeBob comes along and he's like, oh my God, a box. And he has all these ideas, and it's all about creating different things inside the box. And it's
Ah,
one of the best episodes. I don't want to give too much of it away, but he keeps saying, Squidward keeps saying, what are you doing? He's like, I'm using my imagination. And it's great because it's basically he's doing whatever he wants inside the box, not outside. So yeah, I recommend that episode highly.
it's funny that you brought up SpongeBob because many years ago when the SpongeBob movie came out,
Yeah,
I took my friend's niece and nephew to see it, and I wasn't expecting to enjoy the movie.
me and my friend were rolling in the aisles at Grauman's Chinese Theater. We were like
Oh,
one out of four. We were two out of 4 or 5 people there, rolling in the aisles. Were you laughing like that?
I think I was probably in tears. I was laughing so hard,
It was
and
great.
I mean, when he rode the Hasselhoff, that alone was like one of the most epic moments in film history. But I
I
have to
forgot
say,
all about that.
from a writing perspective, what blew me away about that was how they wrote it to multiple levels. Like they were writing for multiple audiences because there was more humor actually written to the adults.
And
But when we laugh, children laugh.
if you think about it, like all the Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny, like especially early Bugs Bunny, hysterically funny, adult humor, or even Beanie and Cecil. There's one called Wild Man in Wildsville. Beanie and Cecil, and they go to like with this beatnik, they go to Wildsville. And it's an island, and it's like got the Lenny Spruce tree, meaning Lenny Bruce.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's all that beatnik humor, but very adult. Like, and same with Warner Brothers. Like, they're written by adults. Why wouldn't they slip in things that make them laugh, right? Or that they're like that are genius
Yeah. I,
references.
I love that in writing when people can do that where there's like these layers happening.
Yeah, yeah, especially the esoteric stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but check that out, Wild Man from Wildville. You'll
I
dig
will.
it.
I'm actually going to write that down real quick so I don't forget.
Anybody else who's watching this, check it out. It's definitely my favorite cartoon.
Cool. So let me ask you right now, what are you reading? And
Sorry.
don't feel bad. I'm reading like 10 different books right now, and the titles are all over the map.
Yeah, I'm all over the map because I've got some medical conditions and I'm like gonna eat like this candida diet. So I'm reading this book called The Yeast Connection, which is like the most unsexy book ever. But I need to read it because I've been dealing with this thing for a while. And this is a tough question for me because, you know, as a publisher, what happens is as you know, my experience is people keep giving me stuff to read that I want to read and that I want to publish. So I end up
Mm.
wanting to read what we're publishing. And I don't get the chance to read other stuff. Although I honestly, I'll be completely honest, the only book that I've read aside from the yeast book was my boyfriend's book because I was like, how could I not read his book? And it's really well written. It's a great book. But, for the most part, right now, what I'm reading is the Mike Roach book, which is our 50th book, and it's called I Play with Giants, and it's so great. Like, and that's kind of like the litmus test for me as a publisher. If I can't put something down and I can't stop reading
Mm.
it. And, my life is better for having read the book. I'm going to want to publish it. But does that answer your question?
Oh, no, that's
What are
great.
you reading? What are you reading?
Oh, touche. Oh gosh. I'm reading a whole mix. So I have different things I read at different times of the day, even.
I like that. What do you
Like
mean?
I read fiction right before bed. And like
What kind of fiction? Like noir?
oh, anything. Just as long as I like the style of the author. I really fell into like Louise Penny books for a while.
Who's that? I don't
She
know who
writes
that
this
is.
Inspector Gamache series.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
And she's a Canadian author, and it's all based on this like town in southern Quebec, and it's really more about the human interactions than it is about the mystery.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So it is a mystery though.
It's a mystery, yeah, but it's really more about the characters, and that's
I last night I just started watching that series Only Murders in the Building. Have you heard about that?
no.
It's Steve Martin and Martin Short.
Oh wow.
It's a series, and
Okay.
it's Only Murders in the Building. They kind of show you how the title came, but it's like because they're all listening to these murder podcasts. So they're all, and then a murder happens in the building or a murder suicide, they're not sure. And they want to do a podcast about it. So they're looking for all these clues. And they're like, then one of them, Martin Short's like, oh, what about the murder that happened down the street? And Steve Martin goes, only murders in the building. Let's keep it in the building. So, but anyway, yeah, and it's really great. So just saying, but you can read mysteries late at night.
Oh, I love stuff like that before bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of soft. It just relaxes my mind,
Right.
and I like I like falling into a story before bed.
Yeah. Get you off
That's
your own stuff.
yeah, because I don't need a lot of brain power for it. I don't need a lot of energy to get there. Um, but I'm reading it's a hard question for me too. It's
You're
a
a teacher, you're teaching.
well, and it's also, but I'm also reading like I think it's called the Bhagavad Gita or something. It's like a Hindu spiritual book that somebody
Inagata Vita, which is like
that
a
would be great.
dream song. Yeah.
It's something similar to that. It's somebody suggested, they're like, hey, this is a really interesting book, and then I'm just looking, I have you know, books on organizations, I have books on transitions, I have books. I mean, I just
I'm also reading Buddhism for Dummies.
oh cool.
Literally, it's what it's called.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah,
It's
no,
great.
I'm looking around. I mean, I'm you can't see it, but everything that isn't plants is books to me. It's all like,
And even then, there might be a book in there.
oh,
One,
and there's probably a book next to a plant, and
yeah, or under.
um, but yeah, like I think one of my favorite books that recently would have been Rob Halford's autobiography was so much fun.
Yeah, I want to read that. I want to read that. Did you
Really
one
cool.
of those can't put downs?
It is. And what I also liked about it is as growing up as like a queer punk is I had to kind of turn my back on metal because metal rejected us.
Well,
And Rod Halford said, "Oh no, metal is queer as fuck."
so brave of him. So
Yeah,
brave, right? Yeah, I want to read that.
and that one was
Um,
fun. So can we mention who your boyfriend is just because his book is so good? Because I've read his book too, and if you're
but
comfortable,
you like it?
oh my God, it was so good.
Yeah, you can mention it. You can mention who it is.
Okay, so Keith Morris biography, it's autobiography, it's fantastic. And
Sure,
one
I'll
of those,
appreciate that.
what's that?
I'm sure I'll appreciate that
Yeah.
you
Oh,
have this book. I mean, yeah,
I mean, I think the thing that I really enjoy reading autobiographies and biographies, and it's interesting because sometimes I read them and I don't like the person at the end of the book.
yeah, right.
Because sometimes, which is not a bad thing. It's just because who the person they revealed, I'm like, that's somebody I wouldn't want to be around.
But they did their job writing the book. They let you know
Totally,
who they are,
totally.
and they were
Whereas
obviously honest.
Keys was just it was moving, it was touching, and it was also so deeply humanizing and personal that I felt like he was sitting down and just it's almost like he and I were doing what you and I are doing.
Right, right.
And he just said, hey,
Specific topics, right?
yeah, it was like I just felt like he was sharing stories of his life with me and just inviting me in and uh letting me be part of his experience. And what's cool is growing up with his music is I did feel invited in.
Wow, that's great. Yeah,
Uh,
it was really he did a really great job on that book. It's
yeah.
really also can't put it down kind of book.
Oh, totally, totally.
And I think it's important that he did a book that was, so human and not so blown up and just, really, really, really honest for the people that are reading it, for, the people that, because I don't care who you are, if, especially if you people are following you, you're carrying a message,
Yeah.
right? As you know, that carrying the message. And I think his messages were really great.
Yeah. No, it was very real and just it made me and it made me love the music even more.
Right? And it's kind of now they're both intertwined, the book and the music, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so funny because I remember as a kid being in when you get in trouble when I was a kid and when I get in trouble they'd make us go spend time in study hall. That's what they used to call it. And I was in study hall a lot. And I remember I would like have my headphones on and I probably listened to Golden Shower of Hits at least 1,000 times while I was sitting in there.
We called it detention. You call it,
Oh, I think that they had their name for us was a little bit nicer because it's probably
yeah, it was smarter,
yeah,
right? Like
just
saying study hall.
not
Ours,
like it ever happened, but it's
right, right. That's funny though. So you were allowed headphones in there,
well, if they weren't noticing we were allowed headphones.
but if they only knew what you were listening to,
Oh, then it would be not allowed at all.
all over, yeah, all over.
Yeah, but that was for some reason that got me through a lot. I do it
Yeah,
all.
and obviously, as it did its job, supposed to, for,
Yeah.
all about, because all this music, all the music I love, and, ever since sort of music woke me up, I felt like it was always getting me through some kind of teen or preteen, and even like after teen angst,
Yeah.
just entering the world, like I look at the movie Rebel Without a Cause, right?
Mm.
All about teen angst. And it seems like teen angst just continues to change. Maybe the
Yeah.
clothes, maybe the music, but it's always the same angst, like trying to enter in the world, and all these hormones going off. And yeah, I feel like, yeah, his music did its job for teen angst. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's cool because I saw them play again recently, and
Yeah.
it was cool to see like how many young people were coming out. So the message is reverberating with it's still current, it's still present, and
It's still working. Yeah, it's great and important. Absolutely.
yeah,
That's even better. I mean, even Jack Grisham, who's on Punk Hostage Press, the singer of TSOL, he, we just published his third book on our press, Pulse of the World, Punk Rock Detective. It's a great book. Great. I think you'd really love it, especially before bed,
oh, I
any
would love
time
that.
of day.
Yes.
It's a great, he did a great job, really well written. Arthur Chance, Punk Rock Detective. It's soon to be a series, but uh you know the first book we published of Jack's, which was Untamed, it's a collection of stories that are kind of like Night Gallery-ish. Remember that show Night Gallery,
Yeah.
kind of Twilight Zone? Really, really, really bizarre, smart stories. So we did the book launch at, it was 2013, at the observatory in Long Beach, and TSOL played. So right before they played, Jack did a signing, and I've never seen anything like it. It was first of all, the line was 4.5 hours long.
Oh my God, wow.
It was wrapped around the whole building, but it was like what you're talking about. It was adults, with their kids, and sometimes with their kids, like
Yeah.
three generations, holding records, holding all kinds of, and I know that happens with Keith as well. It's so wonderful to see. And I know that obviously the music transcends. I also feel like because of the internet, this all,
Mhm.
like, it almost, I feel like once upon a time, music, you had to be a certain age, and then there was this very small window, and then, but I think because of the internet, one, it holds, it's like it it's like a time capsule. You could, it doesn't, because I feel like, especially with Amazon, everybody dies and nobody dies on Amazon.
Right.
You just live forever. All these books that we tried to keep off Amazon, all of our books are on there. They will be on there way longer after we're gone, which is great. And I feel like their music is out there too. Like, I just listened to Code Blue the other day, that TSOL song. So great, such a great song. Obviously that was a lot of people's teenage rebellion and angst. And Beverly Hills Century City by
Yeah.
the Circle Jerks, another great song, although I do sometimes have to go to Beverly Hills work for work every now and then, but I'm good with it. I've come to terms with it. But yeah, no, all generations, it's amazing. And I love that, and I keep that in mind too when publishing these books and doing my own writing. Like, our job is just to tell the truth, right? And the rest is just, we have to see out of the results, and hopefully it is going to hit all generations.
Yeah, definitely. I thought of a fairer question, a more fair question. Because
Thank
I
you.
realized the writing question that was loaded, the reading question. What's inspiring you outside of literature?
Ooh,
Whether
good.
it's music or art or just something in life, what's feeding your spirit?
Wow, thank you for asking. Right now it's travel, which has just sort of come up. I'm here at my brother's house in San Luis Obispo. And before, I was here, about a couple weeks ago. And then I went to North Carolina with Keith to meet his family. And that was great. And a beautiful, like, getting to get out of Los Angeles, which is what I love. I mean, I'm born and raised here, love Los Angeles, but it's turning into a different kind. It's turning into something that I'm not comfortable with right now, and definitely not inspired by. I mean, because a lot of my writing is about Los Angeles, about a lot of the old ghosts and a lot of the history and just the vistas and the palm trees, the way they mix in with the telephone poles and the sunsets, and they inspire me, a lot of beauty here that is starting to get buried. So travel has been really wonderful, but my heart's always going to be here. And Keith lives in Hollywood and I live in like West Hills, like I live in the valley. So lots of times when I stay over there, I'll leave at like 4:35 in the morning to beat traffic. But what's happened now is it's amazing because I get to drive home all these different routes to seeing a lot of places that I've seen
Oh,
in
okay.
my life that I haven't been able to see because of traffic. So I
Yeah.
have this ritual now where I stop at my favorite gas station, which I wrote about in Gas Station Etiquette. Because I have a thing for the gas stations here, because they each tell the story of their neighborhoods. But I have my favorites. And so I'll stop at my favorite gas station in Burbank, which is right next to the hospital I was born at, with St. Joe's. And I'll take a few different routes home as the sun is coming up. And it's amazing. So that's been feeding my writing, being able to do that. And so yeah, that traveling, and of course film. I'm a cinephile from from the moment I was probably able to open my eyes. I've just fallen. I love film. Like when I went to my first, not my first movie, but my first movie with my friends, I think I was 11 or 12. It was the Omega Men and Soylent Green.
Mm.
I saw them 9 times in a row. In a row. Like, and my brother was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was amazing." Like, I think that also, you know, on top of like loving film and just it traps the moment. It stops time. Just
Mm.
like maybe drinking and using or stops
Yeah.
time, which that is definitely a bad idea, a bad way to stop time, because what happens is the rest of your life falls apart. But with film, I can capture a feeling. Like in 2012, I went to New York, with the press, Punk Hostage Press, visiting Puma Pearl and my dear friend Violet and Sandy. Hurricane Sandy came, and it was, we had to evacuate. It was pretty scary. When I got home, I just by myself went in the theater and just movie hopped. I think I saw 5.5 films just to stop time. So so yeah, that's my answer. Those are my answers. Do you
That's
do
cool.
that?
Um, I haven't in a while, and I should, because when I watch movies at home, I get distracted, and then I realize I'm not watching the movie.
Right.
And when I go to a theater, I actually watch the movie because that's why I'm there. That's my purpose.
Uh-oh. Did you freeze?
I hope not. Am I still here?
Eek.
Oh, I think we're having a moment.
Eric, are
I can hear you, but it looks like you're frozen on my end now.
uh,
Now we're good. You know what? I'm gonna blame it on my neighbor's Harley.
is it really loud?
It's super loud, and I have no idea if that could disrupt my internet connection, but there's nights where I'm like, when he sets that thing off, I'll be like, that's what did it. So anyway,
Blame. What's your neighbor's name?
oh, he lives down the hill across the street. It's just that loud of a bike. I've never met the guy.
And I think that's the whole point of a Harley, is that it's loud.
Yeah, which
It's
and
addictive.
honestly, I when I'm in the right mood, I love the sound because it's nostalgic. It's funny because
With you.
this is gonna sound awful, but even sometimes cigarette smoke brings nostalgia up for me.
I'm totally with you. I grew up in Pacoima, okay? And our house was a chop shop, like literally grew up in a chop shop because I had 3 older brothers and they all in car clubs and
Mm,
gangs. And my mom was a single mom raising 4 kids on her own. So she wasn't working or going to school to learn a trade. She was out at night with her friends. So they took over. and house was a chop shop, like pool
Yeah.
table garage, clubs, gangs hanging out, cars, being chopped and flipped and lowered and tinted and, all of that 24/7. It was great. So I'd lay in bed at night and I would hear from about a couple miles away, I could hear the glass packs off the cars that sound that is like a big wet purr. I love the sound of it. To this day, it still gives me a warm fuzzy, like
Yeah.
something very comforting about it. So yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Plus it's another time.
Well, he just took off. I don't know if you could hear that, but it was so
I
loud. I actually
can't.
lost the last thing you said. It was like I could hear the just. Now he's probably half a mile away because they can hear it fading.
Bothering somebody else. No, just kidding.
No, but I actually I love the sound. It's you know because there was a where I grew up there was a racetrack down the street, and
What
once
racetrack was
once
it?
what's that?
What racetrack was it?
Well, I don't even know it's gone now. It's a long time. This was back in Wisconsin where I grew up,
So cool.
and every Tuesday night they would have the races in the summer, and the whole city was a rumble for like 3 hours, just
Wow.
shaking. And it was,
Right.
but it was like, it was also kind of like very punk and metal all at the same time because it's just this really powerful primal sounds.
Really primal. Yeah. Yeah. It's so male. It's so like in the jungle, it's very, very, big male vibe.
But then I remember that they used to end it with a demolition derby at the end. That was always my favorite part, just watching the cars just slowly get, crunching into each other and,
Whoa.
you
Did
know,
he get hurt?
no, I don't think anybody ever got hurt, but it was just, because they knew what they were doing, but it just looks so dramatic.
It is
And
dramatic.
it's very dystopian too. And I
Especially,
was like,
yeah, especially cars crashing into each other. It's like those WC Fields films where he's in the car and he's crashing into everybody.
yeah.
Kind of a fantasy, right? Just want to crash into everybody. So that must feel like getting to crash in another car. Wow. That's got to be a rush.
I've done it, but not on purpose.
Yeah, right? That then we'd be having a whole other conversation if it was on purpose.
Yeah, I'd be interviewing you from jail probably.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that's not happening.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, you've been writing for a long time. You've been doing this for a long time. Um, do you ever have those moments where you're just like, huh, there's no words left?
No,
Or,
no.
okay,
I know. You mean writer's block?
well, writer's block or just those moments of just kind of like,
I have nothing left to say.
yeah, or what do I have to say, or does it matter? Or,
I was talking to Jack about this yesterday because you know, he was just talking about he's doing the foreword for Mike Roach's book. And but we were just talk because he's been on tour with TSOL and he's back and he's, gets to get back to the writing. And I was just thinking and saying, the thing about first of all, my position as a publisher, there's always so much writing around me.
oh
Like
yeah.
all I have to do is start working on even just some stuff of mine that I haven't touched in a while, or even stuff that needs nothing. I just want to go over it. And I just get pulled in. It's just like that. Even if I'm just laying someone's book out, I'm still getting pulled in to the words.
Hmm.
And um and that's great. And I have there's so many books that I'm working on that are just mine that I can't wait. Like the Tropicana book that I started a while ago, the Tropicana Motel. I want to finish that book. And then there's my own personal memoir that I've started that I want to finish. And, another book that I'm doing that's mine called My Hollywood Boulevard. Like, and Pleasant Gaiman and I, who's also on Punk Hostage Press, and my oldest best friend, we're working on the Disgraceland book. I mean, there's and the thing about what you're saying, words, like because it's like we're pulling them out of thin air,
Yeah.
like pulling, just like a painting. And I feel like that, stories are paintings with words, you're painting these pictures. And no, I never, I feel, what I feel like is that I'm just, I need to like, there's so many that there's all floating by, and I love words. I'm a big fan of the written word and the use of words. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but the younger kids, like, they've forgotten about the letter T. They've stopped saying the letter T, and it's like, wait, where did the letter T go? Like mountain. I don't know if you've noticed it. I'm like, what are you're debauching the English language. Like, why are we losing the T? It's like nobody cares, obviously. I mean, except me. But I you know, I love words and I love language. So yeah, I never feel like running out of words.
That's cool. It seems like you're kind of in the center of like exactly where you're supposed to be too, with all these writers and so
Yeah.
much inspiration. And
I love it. My dear other best friend Mandy, who I was in the Lame Flames with in Pink Sabbath, our bands, we talk like 40 times a day, and we were just talking about, like, okay, first of all, I'm at my brother's house in San Luis Obispo. When I was a kid, he was drafted into the Vietnam War.
hmm.
And while he wasn't on the front lines, he was in Nuremberg, Germany, and he would send me stuff. Like you know, I was the only girl, and my brothers, they were all a lot older than me. And so I'm not going to say I was an only child, but kind of,
Mhm.
but he would send me, he sent me a tape recorder, and I just went crazy. I was making like shows. I was interviewing people on all over. I was interviewing people all on my street, just whatever. And I interviewed the girl next door, and she had 9 personalities, and I interviewed all 9.
Oh,
Because
cool.
I was interested and I loved her. I
Wow.
mean, I protected her. I would walk her to school every day and make sure no one messed with her, because people did. And this broke my heart, because when her mom found out what I did, she was like, "You're never allowed to play with my daughter again." And
Oh,
I mean, I really meant no harm, but I was truly interested. So um, but I really went crazy with the tape recorder and got to explore all these creative juices. And then he sent me a movie camera. So I started making all these movies and trick photography. Like I made my friend Diane get in the trunk, and then my mom would get out, just like, I was like 13 and 14. But I was lucky because, we grew up in a, low income neighborhood, and my mom was struggling. If it wasn't for my brother sending me that stuff, I don't know that I would have been able to explore my creativity as much as I got to, making movies I mean, I was like, people over here, silent, quiet on the set. Just, I had so much fun with everyone on the block. And it just really reminds me of what I'm doing with Punk Hostage Press, you know, like really bringing in I just like having this community of talented people. I feel blessed that everyone trusts me with their work. It's such an honor.
yeah, you've got something really, really special. And you mentioned Disgraceland. That is such a great name. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
And so Disgraceland was now it is was a punk rock crash pad, but really, and as there have been so many with these great names, and there's 1 or 4 in every town, because at that time this was 1983, 84, and punk bands were touring, and there was no internet, and the only way to get, like Keith was saying, Black Flag, they just got in the van and drove and played everywhere and anywhere, parking lots, like bands wanted to play and they were out there playing. And so henceforth the crash pad was born, and several of them. And Disgraceland was myself and my dear friend Pleasant Gaiman, who I was in the Ringling Sisters with, and And it was in the shadow of the Fredericks of Hollywood sign and the Hollywood sign. It was between Sunset Boulevard and Hollywood Boulevard, and between Highland Avenue and like Cahuenga or Vine, if you want to get really, those are the big name streets. And it was an old Craftsman. It was a very long house, and it was crazy. And bands would come and stay, and they, like Poison 13 came to stay for like, I don't know, 4 days to play Raji's, and they end up living there for a month, and like it was a blast, and it was crazy, and it was a mess, and it was insane, and like, for some reason the neighbors just let us go crazy. Like and the cops would come and they'd be like, Iris, can you guys lower the music? Like this was a different time in Hollywood because we knew all the police, and it was definitely more like a village than it was this big melting pot of a city where people came from all over. It wasn't overcrowded. It was pretty deserted then. Hollywood is very deserted. So we had, our run of it. I mean, we were smack dab in between an elementary school and a church.
Wow.
And it's amazing that we weren't arrested because we were dangerously close with drugs and alcohol to small children. But so, and a lot of bands stay there, a lot of touring bands. And yeah, it was probably one of the few punk rock crash pads that were owned and operated by women, which is me and Pleasant, and Laura Bennett, who was in the Sirens with Pleasant, and in the Tommy Knockers and the Hangman. She lived there, and the three of us were all there at one time. I mean, it started probably, I think Kid Congo got it, in
Oh,
79, and then Pleasant moved in, and then I moved in there summer of 84, which was right before the summer Olympics, the LA Olympics.
yeah.
And yeah, so we were together. Pleasant and I were probably the longest, 6 years together, because it was a revolving door. But and I think my rent alone was $90. It was, we
Wow.
turned it into a 3 bedroom. Yeah. But it was really like a 20 bedroom because you walk in and there'd be mattresses and skateboards and records everywhere and beers rolling around. And we had like a coffee table that you flipped it over as a craps table.
Oh, cool.
There was no, I mean, my room had some semblance of civilization. Like there was, uh, it was, my room was at the very end of the house, very, very end of this very long, angry red hallway, Mark Reed used to call it. And I had a lock on both sides. If I was in, it was locked. If I was gone, it was locked, because
Right.
you couldn't leave anything up to, you know, up to chance. But yeah, it was wild. It was great. And so we're working on that book, which needs to come out, because it was a very different time, and it was a beautiful time. I feel like it was a kind of this decadent, very decadent time during a very pure era. And it was the very end of all that, before corporate America, before, I mean, I had an answering machine that lived under my bed for 4 years. I never even couldn't figure out how to use it. Like eventually Ples had a phone, and she had the only home phone. And when I was when I was in a band and she was in a band, and then we had the Ringling Sisters, we had too many bands. I was like, I got to get a phone. So I got a phone in my room, and we used to call each other collect from down the hall just to fuck around, or emergency breakthroughs, because there was no call waiting.
Yeah.
There was no there was operators, there was information, there was emergency breakthroughs, there was collect calls. There's there wasn't even I mean, there was no cell phones, there was nothing. This was basically, we had the luxury then of being in the moment with each other, not worried about taking a picture, not worrying about answering a call or a text or this or that, or just an email. We were completely in the moment, and it was a very pure time. And we all had a great time.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because I think about people coming up today, and it's so different because everything happening is being monitored now,
Ugh,
whether it's by themselves, their friends, or outside of them. Everything is being surveyed.
yeah,
And,
right.
even though we were railing at stuff like that at the time, the
We
reality
were
of it was, is,
joking. We were joking.
yeah, but it's like we were actually a lot freer than we ever realized, considering where we're at today. Like
Yeah.
it was kind of like, but I just, the freedom of that compared to where people are at now, where they're just like, there's always eyes on.
Yeah, I mean, we had privacy. Like
Yeah.
that was kind of the final end of real privacy.
But it even makes me think of like how all the old punk scenes, like, LA to San Francisco to Boston to New York to DC, like every city had its flavors.
Yeah,
There was a feeling because these scenes could grow up and they could be organic and they had time to be kind of nurture themselves and explore. And it's harder and harder to do that because the minute something happens, everyone knows about it.
right. And it's like, every like just being in all these different places, it's like on the way here to to San Luis Obispo, I stopped and it wasn't just like your typical like especially San Luis Obispo and Los Osos. It's not like a Barnes and Noble, a Panera, a Starbucks. That's kind of like
Right.
the model landscape of what you're going to get. It's all the same.
Yeah.
This literally this cookie cutter, of for society, this model. And we then it was very different. It was, you know, each place was different and
Yeah.
had its own flavor, which was amazing, right? Yeah. And that's, I mean, it still does. San Francisco still has San Francisco and it has its, the Golden Gate Bridge. It has what makes it different, but still, like, I don't know, you couldn't get punk clothes at stores when we were like, there was no
Oh
hot.
yeah. No, it was.
There was Poser. We had a store called Poser, and Long Beach had a place called Electric Chair, which was Mike Roach's place, which he writes about in his book. But there was no other place. Like I remember Hoonsticky from Social Distortion came by Disgraceland and he had a stencil and a can of black spray paint. He goes, "Bring out your t-shirts, your white t-shirts." And it was the Social Distortion skull.
Oh,
Do you remember?
yeah.
And we laid down our t-shirts and one by one hit him with a stencil and he was out and he went to the next house. Like that was how you did your punk rock t-shirts.
Yeah.
Cool, right?
Yeah. Versus just going to Hot Topic and become like, well, I think today,
Paying $25, $30.
yeah, I think I'll become a punk today,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and
Oh,
tomorrow I'll try
I want to be
goth
a
and
goth. I want to be a
yeah.
goth. Yeah,
This has
yeah.
been so great. I wish we could had all day to talk, and I know
Oh
that.
my God, thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Oh, it's so much fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking with you. Real quick before we go, two things. One, is there anything that you want to give a shout out to? Anything you want to endorse?
There's so much. I'm just gonna say this. Read more books.
Yes, thank you. And then, if people want to reach out to you or find you on this thing we were talking about called the internet,
Yeah, I
where
mean,
do they
I'm
go find you?
you can reach me at punkhostagepress.com. You could reach me at Punk Hostage Press on Insta, Iris Berry Official on Insta, Iris Berry on Facebook. I'm very out there, more than I'd like. But I love it when people reach out to me.
And apparently MySpace.
Yeah. If you find me, please let me know.
So, well, hey, thank you again. Thank you so much. And I look
Thank
forward to
you.
talking to you soon.
Thank you so much.
All right. You have a great rest of your day, Iris.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.